Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Short-Term Show special episode series on the high country of North Carolina. So we are going to be doing a 10-episode deep dive into everything you need to know about buying a short-term rental in this market. And we do have a few supplemental materials for y'all to check out over on our website. So any information that you need on pricing of short-term rental properties in this market, you can find it on our website at theshorttermshop.com. You can also find income data thanks to our friends over at airdna.com. You can find that on our website, again, at theshorttermshop.com. If you guys are interested in buying a short-term rental property with a short-term shop agent in this market, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com, or you can join our Facebook group. We've created an amazing community with over 50,000 people where we talk about all short-term rental investing all day, every day. And you can join that. The name of the group is the same title as my book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. And we look forward to seeing you over there. Thanks, y'all. Hey guys, welcome back to the Short-Term Shop special episode series on the high country of North Carolina. Today we're talking about pricing. I'm already questioning my decision of the cast of characters on this particular episode, but here they are. I'll have Mr. Luke Carl, introduce himself first.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just over here brushing up on my jokes, making sure I'm polished for the show here with these two lovely gentlemen, and quite a bit of experience in short term. I co-own the short-term shop with Avery. Little known fact, I gave it its name. I'm throwing that out there right in front of you, Avery. Love it, though. Love you. You're awesome. Greatest real estate agent of all time. And I own the longest running Airbnb in the Smoky Mountains. That's my claim to fame. Hundreds of units, and life is good. Loving life in the full-time real estate spectrum. So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, next we have Joe, the Groundhog Whisperer Prilliman. Can you introduce yourself really quick?
All right, I don't know what that is. Where did that come from?
Yes, I am the proud owner of a groundhog underneath Unit 1 in Banner Elk. Top notch there. So real estate investor as well, real estate agent in the Carolina Beach market, short-term rentals, long-term, mid-term, done a little bit of everything. And just happy that we upgraded to beautiful people whenever we're live. So thanks, Luke, for that.
Oh man, I'm regretting so many decisions at the moment. Next, we have Garrett. I don't know what a ladybug looks like. Simmons. Garrett, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, tough to follow that up. My name's Garrett. I am Avery's lone and only agent up in the high country of North Carolina, the northwest corner of the state. Helped a ton of people buy short-term rentals up here. Have bought and owned some investment property myself, and love closing deals. Love talking shop, talking real estate, especially up in the mountains and the high country. And excited to be a part of the madness this morning.
All right. So today we're talking about pricing and calendars. So Luke is like the pricing ninja. And I almost said guru, but I hate that word. So I'm going to call him a ninja. And he's the pricing ninja. And then you guys own properties up there and have a little more market specific insight into it. So let's go calendars first. How far out in advance are you guys seeing people book? Like, what's the average lead time for getting a calendar booked in this market?
All depends on the size. So I take my unit with the 28 people that can stay there. I keep that open about a year and 2 months. And the prime season books pretty well in advance. I'd say 6 months for those ones, but those are like the specific weekends. So there's some really big festivals and whatnot that come in, and those are like always fought over across the board. And so I like to keep those open, but keep them priced really high on the big unit. And then smaller units for me, Garrett, I don't know if you see this on yours, but I'm as quick as 2-week turnarounds on those.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. All depends on the size. I would say the smaller units, especially some of these condos that function as hotel alternatives, you're going to see people that, it's the same people that are going to book a hotel, that sometimes people book a hotel in the parking lot. So, you're definitely going to see, I would say in 2-bedroom and under, especially the condos, you're going to see people with 2 weeks and under. I agree. As far as if you do keep your calendar open, make sure those weekends, there are certain events where people will book in advance. For instance, you got Parents Weekend in the fall where you got 25,000 students, parents moving them in, and they're going to plan that in the summertime because it's an exact weekend and it's not changing rain, snow, rain, snow, or shine. The wintertime, obviously people will come up based on the weather. And so that's something that's a little bit harder to predict. I would say overall, not like the beach where people are planning their vacation months in advance or a year in advance. At most, in some of these bigger houses, I would say 2 to 3 months would be the max lead time in some of these big properties.
Can you describe that larger property? Is that a single family or what is it?
So that one is essentially it's a whole grouping of townhouses. So it's like 6 individual smaller units and with one large listing that I use it for. So it's more like if you're bringing just a really large group of people that want their own individual bedrooms and kitchens and whatnot. And so it's a little unique because I don't have the large shared space that a lot of people are looking for, but it's good for like large group family reunions and whatnot, corporate events, stuff like that.
So you have separate listings, one for the whole package and then one for each of them individually, or how does that?
Yeah, that's how I run that one. So that one has a parent listing with individual listings underneath it. And so if one of the individual listings books, it'll block out the parent listing. And so that's why I keep the shorter calendars for the smaller individual ones, because I'd rather the whole place book at once, but it's just kind of a way to maximize that occupancy.
How do you handle that logistically with Airbnb and Vrbo? How does Vrbo know that somebody booked the small one and now the parent is no longer available?
So I'm still running on the old tried and true IGMS, and IGMS lets me have the main parent listing control the individual listings. So I have a listing on Airbnb and VRBO, which is the parent, the big one. And then if that one books, it blocks the other ones at the bottom and vice versa. So it can speak to that and block them out when it needs to.
It's just a slot, like a click button setting on IGM on your management software. It's a simple process or okay.
Yeah, pretty simple process.
I think most of the management softwares have that just in case anybody's interested in doing that. That's a topic for an entire different podcast, which we will get to at some point. But anyway, sorry, Avery.
I think they call that nesting the listings.
Yeah. Nesting.
All right. So we've established that this is a pretty short, quick lead time market. This isn't a market where people are booking 8, 10, 12 months out in advance. So let's talk about the seasonality, which of course, this is going to kind of overlap into some other episodes that we've done where we've talked about it. So high season versus low season, when are those two? And then we'll get into the pricing of that.
Yeah, absolutely. This can kind of be a long-winded answer. It's not black and white. I would say that the market up here, even though as the crow flies looking at it, it's 20-mile radius. It's kind of split up into 2 or 3 kind of sub-markets within the area. So, for instance, in the Banner Elk, Sugar Mountain, Beach Mountain area, where Joe's places are, your quote high season is going to be a little bit more in the wintertime because it's going to be closer to the ski resorts. And now when I say high season, it's not like 90% of your bookings or 100% of your bookings are coming in the wintertime, but it might be 70-30. And that ski season is going to be really kind of kicks off beginning of December after Thanksgiving. And depending on the weather, can go all the way to the end of March, beginning of April. That's going to kind of be your ski season. High season where things can get a little bit slow is that April, May. It's cold one day, hot the next, it's raining the next. The ski slopes are closed, but all the summer parks haven't opened. All the summer activities haven't opened. So that April, May can be a slower transition while you're waiting for school to get out. And it's kind of in that in between. Once June rolls around, is when the summer is going to be super popular. If you're in that Boone or Blowing Rock area, the summer is going to be super popular because everyone likes to walk around town and be close to town and be kind of in and around the activities. They don't care as much about being close to the ski resorts because, other than mountain biking, there's just not as necessarily as much demand to be close to the ski resorts, and they'd rather be kind of be close to the action in Boone and Blowing Rock. So I've had clients that are closer to there see more stuff in the summertime, and they'll still get stuff in the wintertime, but not as much. And then vice versa. If you got a place on Beach Mountain, it might be a little bit slower in the summertime. So that whole summer kind of season really kind of bleeds into the fall, and the end of that, whenever the leaves fall, is kind of marks the end of the summer fall season, which typically, depending on the weather, is usually the middle of October up here, sometime in October. So your second little lull is going to be in that November, whenever the leaves fall up to kind of Thanksgiving, so that you kind of have a weird little lull before the ski slopes open, that things are quiet in the fall. So really, I like to tell people kind of a 9.5, 10-month demand as far as people coming up here. But if you look at from an annual revenue standpoint, you might be 70-30 if you're on a ski in, ski out, house on the ski slopes, or 80-20 even, where your revenue is going to be the same, but the majority of that's going to be in the wintertime, versus you might have a cabin in the woods on the river between Boone and Blowing Rock that can bring in the same amount, but it might be a little bit more spread out across the whole year.
All right. So what are you guys suggesting for a minimum night stay in this market in the different seasons?
Joe, I'll let you take this one. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely protect your weekends, because your weekends are when most people are coming up to use the slopes and whatnot, and really watching that weather forecast on it. So if you know that you're going to have snow in the next couple of weeks, or like that 10-day forecast, just make sure that you're not letting people check in on like Saturday, check out Monday, make sure they're coming in on Friday and whatnot to really maximize that. But in kind of those slower seasons, we drop ours down to like a 2-night minimum. And so that can break up your weekends, which isn't fun, but we hold as fast on that as we can up until it starts slowing down.
So do you charge more for when it snows or opposite? Because I know in the Tennessee side, which I hate to compare everything to that, but that's what my experience is. If it snows, people like decide not to come. Is that the opposite with you guys?
Yeah, definitely the opposite. So, and again, that can be a little bit hard to time, because obviously the snow more than 7 days out can be a little bit tough. Where you could get, more than 7 days out, your weekend's probably going to be booked regardless if it's snowing or not snowing. That being said, Monday through Thursday or Monday through Wednesday, where you might have a lot of openings, if for whatever reason we're expecting to get a foot of snow on a Monday, people are going to move mountains to take off work and whatever to get up to the mountains to go snowboarding or skiing on Monday through Wednesday. So if you can be proactive and get upstream there when the weather comes out 7 days in advance, you might be able to come back in and be like, hey, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to charge even more than the weekend prices, because we're about to get blasted with snow and everyone's coming up to the area. If you're in one of these areas that's close to the ski resorts. So that's something to think about. Again, it's not really something that you can automate unless you have, I guess, maybe a VA checking the weather or something along those lines, but that's something that you could, theoretically do. But it's going to be a little bit harder, obviously, because you don't know the weather.
But somebody that listens to this is going to try and automate the weather. I can guarantee you that.
Right.
Yeah, some possible engineer. It'll be an engineer that tries to do that.
I was like, man, I wish I could do that. But do they make fake snow? I mean, what if there's? Can I still go skiing if there's no snow?
Yeah. So I mean, that's something to think about. So the ski resorts never shut down from the beginning of December to the end of the season. Now they might stay open a little week or two later towards the end of the season, but very rarely, I've never seen it in the 10 years I've been up here, where it's like, hey, we got to shut down the slopes because it's so warm. What happens is, whenever it gets cold enough, below 30 degrees, they're running those blowers a lot of times at night. And so they're building up that base layer throughout the whole season. So that being said, if we have warm weather for a week, you can still go skiing or snowboarding, but it's going to be slushy. It could be icy at night. It's not going to be, quote, prime conditions. So people can still go skiing and snowboarding year round, which is why your weekends are always going to get booked. People are going to come up here. It's just going to be like, I guess it's similar to like surfing, as far as like people are checking the weather, and when the waves and the tides are right, it's like we're moving mountains to get out there. I guess you could always go surfing, but sometimes it's better than others. Maybe that's not the best analogy, but
sounds good to me.
It's not like Aspen, where it's like, hey, you're going to have pretty prime conditions for 6 months out of the year because there's just snow on the ground for 6 months out of the year. So you can always go skiing and snowboarding, but the conditions are going to be better than other times. And when we can get fresh snow, anybody will tell you skiing on fresh snow is better than icy,
And what about the roads? These are maintained by the city and the county, and they're cleared, and you can get to your property even when there's heavy snow. That's not a problem. I'm not used to that.
Yeah, I mean, we went
into that in depth on some other
episode. But the main roads, like if you're not, main roads going to the ski slopes, they're going to do a really good job of plowing those. It's the number, one of the main sources of income for the whole county is the ski resorts in the wintertime. So, and we have the infrastructure to do that. It's not like the town shuts down when we get a half inch of snow. And people usually are coming up here again, expecting the snow and bringing their 4-wheel drive vehicle. And so, yeah,
we have that requirement, Luke, across the board, is everyone has to have a 4-wheel drive vehicle in the winter.
Got it. All right. So we've established pretty short lead time in this market. High season is typically in the wintertime, but you can't, you'll get booked in the summertime also. We've talked about minimum night stay. So let's talk about what times during. So obviously you want to be using Price Labs or a pricing tool, but you also want to be paying attention. You don't ever want to have anything fully on autopilot. So what are the different things throughout the year that we need to be paying attention to and making sure that we are priced accordingly for?
Woolly Worm.
Yeah, we talked about the Woolly Worm Festival. I still don't even really know what it is, but a big fall festival out in Banner Elk that brings a ton of people in. There's a big event called the Highland Games, which is up on Grandfather Mountain. That is, I don't know how many thousand people, but people come in from all over the country, and they
what is it?
They put their kilts on. It's like shot putting, all of literally the Scottish archaic games, and they all dress up. It's a huge thing.
Well, so it's like kind of sort of similar to like a Renaissance fair, but Olympics.
I don't know what that is, but yeah, I guess it's the Highland Games. I mean,
that's really the
Catalina wine mixer, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it's Catalina wine mixer. Yeah, it's a I guess it's something that's held in Scotland. There's always there's a tug of war.
Really just see it.
I mean, like I'm Googling.
Sounds like
right
a little
now.
bit Dungeons and Dragons, or
exactly what it is. Just real
yeah.
life version. Like it's kind of like the Civil War reenactments you see up in the Northeast, where it's like, yeah,
what they call that LARPing.
Like LARPing.
I don't know. That sounds inappropriate.
Live action role playing.
Yeah. So Highland Games is huge. I pencil in every home game, football game in the fall. I'm myself included, most of the alumni at App State, because it's so cheap to go to school here, in-state tuition. Most of the alumni, even if you're not in school, they live in North Carolina. So they're in Raleigh, Charlotte. So the home football games are huge. People coming into town, parents coming into town, friends and families.
What division are we in here?
FBS. We're usually in the top 25.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we're in the Sun Belt. We were the first school
Sun
ever
Belt.
to win
Sun Belt.
That's the conference, not the division.
Right,
yeah.
conference is what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in with like Louisiana Monroe and Lafayette, and I don't know. We're working on getting, but we beat Michigan, we beat A&M last year. We have it's kind of a cult following of football up here, just because, yeah, the history and
taking down the Giants.
That's right.
All
So
right.
yeah, that's huge. There's a couple other different festivals in Blowing Rock.
Do we find that Price Labs keeps pretty good track of all these things for us?
I don't think so. I don't know. Joe will be able to,
It does okay. Yeah. I mean, like it shows the larger increase in demand. So it's funny because like the Woolly Worm Festival for some reason is one of the highest pingers on Price Labs to show it's just like egregious amounts of money you can charge for. For some reason that brings in just a huge number of people. But all these other ones, like it's difficult to use it for like snow tracking, like we were talking about, because it's not gonna be able to pick up on the demand that comes in that quick. But for these larger ones, absolutely. It shows that, hey, these are the times when people are searching, and it's been decently accurate from what I've seen.
Now, that being said, Joe, I full disclosure, you've been on my podcast, Short-Term Rental Management, which I'm going to plug that, Avery. Sorry if you don't mind. If you want to check me out on wherever podcasts are listened to. You don't actually integrate with Price. This is a pricing call. So you use it. Can you explain that a little bit? You use it, but you're not actually connected, right? How do you do that?
100%. So kind of flying blind on my first year up in the high country. We'll be totally honest about that. And so looking at it from a supply and demand standpoint. So seeing where Price Labs is saying, hey, this is where everything is, and then integrating like enemy method kind of style on it. And so this year we're a lot heavier on figuring out the prices in the high country, because Price Labs would probably give me a pretty good run for my money right now. And we're trying to beat that with the way we do it. And so spending a lot of time like looking at people around us, and we'll sign into Price Labs, but we won't integrate it directly to it, so we can see where they're saying we're going to have higher ones and not. And then we compare that with our competition around us that we're following pretty closely.
Which is, just in case if you're a noob, this is not conventional way to do pricing. Joe has quite a bit of experience. He's been doing this a really long time. I personally would never do that. It's too much work for me. I do integrate with Price Labs, of course, and I spend my time tweaking on Price Labs. Mostly, it's really very similar to what Joe's doing. It's just, to me, what he's doing sounds like more work than what I'm doing, but it works for him. That's, again, at the end of the day, you're a property manager. If you're going to get into this gig, you are a property manager. I think that's something that a lot of people just overlook. Oh, I'm just going to put my house on Airbnb and it'll be awesome, which it is. But at the end of the day, you're in charge of picking which guests are coming through and fixing dead toilets and leaks under the house and a main line and all this other stuff and a roof and the roof leak. You're a property manager. So Joe is having great success with his way of doing things. I definitely would recommend, especially for a noob, to go ahead and integrate Price Labs. But that's not his style, and it works, and that's awesome.
That's the key. You can always do it. Like, there's so many ways to do it and be successful with it. And so that's what I love about it. It's like, yeah, my way is very, very different, but like you said, it works for us. And so you can be successful in this in tons of different ways.
How are we doing on big holidays, major holidays like 4th of July? Let's just stick with 4th of July for a second. What does that look like? How far in advance do I want it booked? Is it similar to other markets, et cetera?
Yeah. Very similar to other markets. I would say kind of as a whole. So if you look at the landscape of people that are visiting up here, historically, it is a lot of people from North Carolina in these drivable markets, Charlotte, Raleigh, Winston-Salem, the Triad area. So in the wintertime, however, because of the ski slope. So in the summertime, we'll start in the summertime. So in the summertime, you live in Raleigh, you live in Charlotte, you got two places to go. You come up to the mountains or you go down to the beach. Well, in Joe's area down at the beach, no one really goes down in the wintertime unless you own property there. It's not really a big hot spot. You got your hot, you're really seasonal the summertime. So yes, while I love the summer up here, it's 75 degrees when it's 100 degrees in Raleigh. You're split between the demand split. So when you live in Raleigh, Charlotte, you're much likely to go rent a house at the beach in the summertime. Maybe you'll come up for a weekend, to the mountains, but it's split. We don't get anyone from Tennessee in the summertime because even though I could go on a rant about how our mountains are cooler and better, people aren't going to drive an extra 3-4 hours because they can go to the Smokies. If they live in Knoxville, they live in Nashville. They're not driving 6.5 hours, 7 hours just to come up to Boone, just to get a little bit higher elevation. That being said, the winter rolls around and no one's going to the beach. People want to go to a mountain retreat weekend, even if they're not skiing and snowboarding. Their kids have never seen snow because it flurried in Charlotte and never sticks on the ground. And they're going to come up here and drink hot chocolate and sit by the fire and maybe go skiing or snowboarding. And now we will get people from Nashville, from Knoxville. There's no places to go skiing and snowboarding. We'll get people from Alabama. Anyone that doesn't want to get on an airplane to go up to Aspen or go west or go to Vermont, we will cast a bigger net in the wintertime. So that's another reason why it could be a little bit more popular in the wintertime, because if you're going to go skiing or snowboarding, sure, it's not Breckenridge or whatever, but it's the best skiing in the Southeast as far as the 6.5 hours. So we'll get that 6.5 hour, 7 hour car drive people because it's hard, in the wintertime versus the summertime. While I love being up here, you're going to get a little bit more people that it's going to be just a little bit more centered of Charlotte, Raleigh, but you're also, competing with the beach. And so, kind of circling back, that's another reason why the holidays, 4th of July, super popular up here, but you're also going to have people going to the beach for 4th of July. It's one of the busiest week of the year. That being said, Thanksgiving, Christmas, everyone wants to spend up in the mountains because everyone's
hold on just a second. Let me get you back on track with the 4th of July. How much can I expect on a 2-bedroom, give or take, and don't even have to give me a dollar number, like compared to a week in March or April. I mean, is it, in other words, not even a percentage. Is it exponentially more than it would be on a regular old Tuesday in March? Or
I would say
it just kind of relaxed?
I would say 4th of July is a little bit, it's elevated, but not as elevated as you might see at the beach. Mm-hmm. Joe, you correct me. I know.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's still double your rate that you would be getting on a random day in March, but it's not 3, 4, 5 times your rate like you can get down here in Carolina Beach. And so it's fantastic to target those.
That's what I'm looking for. So almost sounds a little similar to Christmas in the Emerald Coast, where yes, you're going to get booked. December, you're not getting anything really other than Christmas. But Christmas, you're going to get booked. It's not going to be crazy. It's not going to be a 4th of July number or anything like that. But it's a desirable date that is definitely going to be a needle mover for that time of year.
Now
you're going to be happier.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's up here is going to be the 4 times, 5 times rate because everyone will come up here for Thanksgiving. There's going to be a little low in December between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but then when Christmas and New Year rolls around, everyone is coming up here for a week or whatever, and that's going to be kind of your, the beach 4th of July kind of rates is going to be our mountain Christmas, New Year's.
Everybody wants a white Christmas.
Yeah. So I'm starting to see kind of in my brain, I picture like this, it's like a wave of a graph of when the people are coming. And in the Smokies, it's like crazy, crazy, crazy. And then it dies down for a couple of months and then it's crazy again. But you guys, the graph in my brain is high when it's low in the Smokies. So that's really cool. It's a little bit of a different vibe. Not really used to the slow season being busy. To me, that's the slow season, So that's really, and it is in most markets. It's all same in the beach. If you're on a beach like Florida, November, December, January is pretty dead. So it sounds like you guys. I guess what my question is Joe or Garrett, what can I expect on an average occupancy rate? I know it's a very difficult question to ask. But maybe on just a run-of-the-mill 2-bedroom, 1,200 square feet, house. Am I looking at 85%? Am I looking at 50%?
I'm shooting for about 70 is my plan. 70.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to probably fall closer in that 60% range.
And that's on a smaller home, or that's on the big giant multiplex?
That's on the smaller homes.
Smaller, okay. two bedroom and under. Yeah, I would say that.
Can I expect lower occupancy on a bigger home? Is a bigger home going to be 40, 50%? Or is it going to be similar to the 60-ish?
I think it'd be 40, 50 personally, but I'll have better data for you as I get a full year under it. And that's also part of my strategy is I try to run as many people through as possible to build up that base. Once I have that base, years 2, 3, and 4, I always do way better in my occupancy. But looking at it from I'm jumping into this market, like I'm trying to keep my expectations a little more real.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would say even a smaller places, like you'll see some studios, some true hotel alternatives. When I had my condo on Sugar, it was closer to 90%. I had one night minimums. It was people in and out, like across, like just all the time. Obviously there's that line of you can get your occupancy as high as you want if you drop your nightly rate. And so that's obviously a different conversation. That being said, as far as the large properties, I know we had Mike, a client of mine on another property of mine. He's got a 10-bedroom it used to be an old ski lodge. Now it's a 9-bedroom house. And that gets booked. It's like 80, 85% occupancy because it's such a huge, unique property that can house so many people that is going to be a little bit more like, okay, this is going to get, there's only X amount of places for people to go that's larger than 20 people. But I would say your typical 4 or 5 bedroom house, I have a listing that is 5 bedrooms. I would say is going to be closer to like that 55, 60% occupancy.
Okay, great. And then what about, so as I'm rounding 4th of July, before I get to Valentine's Day, the holiday, the major holidays, what does that look like? September, October, back to school. Is there a bit of a lull there? Is it decent, or how am I doing on the fourth quarter of the year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Third to fourth quarter.
I actually think, and I think Joe will agree with me. And there's data to back it up. I think the busiest month of the year up here is October. The weather is super perfect. The leaves are changing. People are coming up. It's kind of back to school. So you got the, back to school crowd as far as parents, families. You got people coming up to see the leaves change, and that's going to happen sooner than it does in the rest of the state because of the temperatures. So I actually think that September, October, as the weather kind of cools, is one of the busiest months. And then it will drop off whenever those leaves fall is when it will drop off kind of substantially. And it's like, all right, cool. We're cool until the holidays.
Right. That's kind of that steep drop off. Is November, I believe, is our worst month. And so that's whenever I plan on going up there and like enjoying it and hanging out, because it's like, I like to go to my properties and use them. And so, October is just absolutely crushing it. And then there's pretty a steep drop off. And so that's why we always kind of go back to the winter, because the winter's consistent good all the way through, but October just crushes it. And then November is pretty quiet.
Okay. And if I'm a noob coming into this market, I'm not going to, I can't freak out that my entire calendar is not full. It's just not how it rolls here, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. So just know that
I would say, I would also say too, I mean, when we talk about occupancy, and it depends on your price, like, my parents have a condo, 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. It's got a sweet view. They don't maximize it. They use it. They kind of parlay it as a second home, but they have had, since they have purchased it in April, every single weekend has been booked, and they're cool with it. They don't care about the weeks or whatever. So you are going to get people on the weekends you could get somebody in your place every single weekend, where you see that delta in occupancy from 100% to the 60%. Majority of that is going to be the weekdays, and some people can drop their prices low enough to get a couple people. Maybe it's a long weekend, but the reason that it might be higher in the wintertime is because we talked about, hey, the snow doesn't just snow on the weekends. So if we do get a snowstorm on a Monday through Wednesday, people are going to kind of move mountains, no pun intended, to get up here and ski or snowboard. So that's where you're going to see why it can be busier in the wintertime, is because you're going to see more people during the week.
Well, I would love to get your mom's phone number so I can discuss that with her. So what are we looking at for New Year's? We kind of scooted back and forth now. We went from 4th of July to Christmas to back to school. Sorry about your mom joke, Avery. But and now, so slide me back this direction we were going originally into New Year's and that general area. Is that heavy? Are people coming there to party with the champagne and go skiing?
Oh, yeah. Huge up here. I think... I want to say I got some clients that we actually met, Dan, the Kennedys at BPCon, but they had their place. They have a 5-bedroom on Beach Mountain, and they got booked for like $1,200 a night, I believe, or something along those lines, like 4 or 5 months in advance for New Year's. New Year's is super big up here with people coming up, partying and skiing and snowboarding.
Living the dream.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Yeah. So any other best practices in terms of calendars and pricing that anybody wants to share before we go? Because I think we've kind of hit everything. It's pretty straightforward. But anything else that we think the listeners might benefit from hearing?
I'd say just keep your eyes open on it, on like making those little adjustments and whatnot, especially new into the market, because like if you really step back, it's kind of turbulent. There are some months that are going to do really, really good. There's other ones that aren't. And so kind of trying to maintain more of that steady Eddie income throughout the year is real important. So maximizing your weekends, obviously, are huge. And just making sure that those special events aren't creeping up on you, because there are times that you don't really expect. And so just have your eyes open on like when your calendar is going to do really well, maximize those, and don't be as worried about the times when it wouldn't book anyway. Sometimes it's better to not fill it.
All right. Anybody else? That's really good advice, Joe. Sometimes you don't need to get booked if it's going to have to be at a really low price. I totally agree with that.
Right. Yeah, no, I would say too, just kind of focusing on, when you're buying, what area. I know it can be a podcast, an entirely separate podcast, but figuring out where exactly you're buying and being prepared for that, because it's not necessarily, hey, this is the high country calendar. It's like, if you got a ski in, ski out house on the ski slopes, which is almost like an oceanfront property kind of equivalent, it's like you are super high season is the wintertime. The summertime, it could be very quiet. Now you're, so thinking about trying to price things versus if you're, have a little cabin that is off the Blue Ridge Parkway in Blowing Rock or someone else, it's going to be a completely different animal. You're going to attract a completely different kind of people. So kind of thinking about splitting up the market into submarkets and figuring out, hey, your occupancy can be different, which is again why I love the enemy method up here, because you can typically find another property close to where yours is, and your comp to that could be completely different than a 2-bedroom, in Blowing Rock, or even though it looks like on Google Maps it's not far away, it really is almost an entirely different market.
All really good advice. Last call, Luke. You always have something to say.
No, that's it. Good looking dudes. Great to be here. Yeah.
The pricing panther.
The pricing panther.
The panther of pricing. Wow. I love it. Yeah. The ladybug of something.
The Black Panther of pricing.
I'll just keep my groundhog over here.
It's the
Sex Panther.
The Anchorman thing is Sex Panther.
Yes, that's my cologne. Yep.
All right. On that note, I think we're done here. Guys, if you are interested in buying a house with Garrett in the high country, email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com. Or if you just have more questions that you want to get answered, just want to learn a little more, join one of mine and Luke's weekly calls at strquestions.com. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Avery.